So today's guest is someone whose name carries a lot of weight in the insurance world. Ed has over 4 decades in the industry and has done just about everything from leading national sales teams of more than 30,000 agents to co-founding FFP Insurance Services, which is a 6,000 agent network built on not recruiting, but on coaching, mentorship, and most of all, I think it's fair to say, Ed, on trust. And across these 40 plus years, Ed has shaped careers, built companies, and proven that genuine leadership still scales better than any incentive plan, right? So Ed's one of those rare people who's seen every side of the business, every facet of every mechanical cog within the business, and still believes that growth starts with people. Ed Ledford, it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much for joining me.
Lloyd, thank you very much. That's a very gracious introduction. So, yes, I've been blessed in many ways in this industry. And, I think back to all the change in the industry that we've seen, from the products, the companies, the distribution methods. When I started out, everything was in a career agency system. The MetLifes, the New York Lives, the Mass Mutuals and whatnot controlled the world. And, 3 of those don't even exist anymore, hardly. And now you've got basically most of the life insurance and annuity premium is done through the independent channels. And I was very fortunate early in my career. I started with Metropolitan Life. I spent probably the first 6 years in the career agency system, but then was given an opportunity to start Metropolitan Life's brokerage operation with my boss, basically from a blank yellow pad. So I was a 27-year-old kid with a little bit of insurance and a couple of minor successes along the way. And Metropolitan Life gave me a checkbook and a yellow pad and said, go build some distribution. And frankly, he was one of my first mentors in the business, was my boss there, Alan Nepper. And, he had basically a theory. He said, just go do what you're going to do. And if I see you going through a glass window, I'm going to grab you by your collar and kind of pull you back. But if you're just going into a wall, expect a bloody nose. And that's kind of how it worked. And, much of what we've done has been trial and error and successes and, failures, frankly. You make mistakes along the way. But that Metropolitan Life checkbook was a pretty good Band-Aid along the way when I'd make some errors out there initially in the field.
Those failures are important though, Ed, right? I think we learn more through failure than we do through success. The failures tend to stick with you. That's where you really change as an individual when you've had those failures. I think it's important to fail.
Well, I would agree with you, and I think it's a matter of how you approach that failure. I see some people fail and they go and hide in the hole and they don't come out for 6 months. That's certainly not going to help in your development. But, I was talking to an agent just 2 weeks ago, and this is a very successful top of the table agent. And I asked him, I said, how do you make your sales? And he says, well, I have a process that I go through. And I said, well, how do you overcome all the objections you run into? He said, well, that's part of the process. Every time I fail to make a sale, I'll go in and after that appointment, I pull my car around the corner and I stop and I make notes while it's still fresh in my mind about where that sale was lost and what could I do in my presentation at the front end, because he's not one that believes in overcoming objections. He's one who believes in laying the framework and the education so that the objective doesn't come up in the first place.
Yeah.
And I found that to be quite insightful. When you do make mistakes, I mean, if you'll stop and figure out what it was that went wrong, and believe me, I've made a ton of mistakes. Some I've learned more from than others. And every once in a while, and this is where I think, having those mentors really helps a lot, and good coaching is, you can learn from somebody else's mistake. And I would call that wisdom. Experience is when you learn from your own mistake. Wisdom is when you're able to learn from somebody else's and apply it to your own
Very
world.
true. Very true, Ed.
So,
yeah, absolutely. And you've led literally tens of thousands of agents, throughout your career, which is pretty remarkable. Before we jump into that empire,
most of it's age related, Lloyd. I mean, if you stay around long enough.
No, but you would have made an impact on so many people, and just before we jump into the empire that you've built here, Let's take a step back to the beginning. You mentioned Alan there as an early mentor. Was that the kind of the first mentor you had in your professional life? And what did he see or enlighten you with that you didn't identify before?
Well, it was more a matter of we were both given an opportunity at the same time. He was much more experienced and he had risen to the position of an agency vice president at Metropolitan Life in the biggest agency market of the company. So he led the largest sales force, and he took me on as a number two, or I should say, I was really thrown at him as a number two. Because of some situations there and some openings that popped up. But I was a pretty young kid at the time and had not had a lot of experience, but certainly, I've got a reputation for being a hard worker, and integrity has always got to be a cornerstone of anything you do. And basically, we kind of grew it together. But he was the one that kind of put me under his wing and gave me an opportunity that I hadn't had before. And we remained friends through our entire career, even though our paths went a couple of different ways. I consider him a mentor of mine, one of my early ones. I've really been blessed, and I've had quite a few, as a matter of fact. People who have taken a keen interest in my career and been willing to help. And I was surrounded by a lot of very, very successful people early on at Metropolitan Life. I actually, in that brokerage startup with the yellow pad and the checkbook, we were one of 6 different new distribution channels that Metropolitan was trying to tap into. And they were trying to get in. They had one for getting into banks. They had another for getting into property and casualty agencies, et cetera, et cetera. And the people that led each of those teams, 4 of them went on to be CEOs of major insurance companies. Wow. I'm talking Mutual of New York. I'm talking the Principal Group, Allianz, and to rise from a sales leader to a CEO of a major company, and that takes a lot of skill and good timing and good performance. And those were the kind of people. I was in my 20s, and I'm officing 2 doors down from them, and trying as much as I can to learn through osmosis, just being around them. And I did learn a lot, and was grateful and expressed my gratitude to them along the way too. So, if you take an interest in people, I find a lot of people are willing to take an interest in you. Not that I would go in and tap into, try and it's never, none of this was scheduled, by the way. Mm-hmm. It was just a matter of, here's something that might help you. And next thing you know, I got somebody helping me 5 different ways more. It's not unlike what they say in the Bible. It comes back tenfold. And that's like every good deed. So those were the things very early on that shaped it. And I'll give you kind of a funny story, Lloyd. As I had mentioned to you earlier, I'm a very avid golfer. And I tell you this story really to say a blessing to a fellow by the name of George Hall. I was a pretty good athlete in all sports, baseball included, which I did not pursue once they started throwing curveballs. I just never trusted the physics of that ball not hitting me in the head. So I had to find something else to do. And the next thing you know, my father was up at Cornell University for 1 year. His company had sent him up to do some graduate courses. And I'm a 7th grade, I think, up there. Yes. Very early young kid. And he liked to play golf. He wasn't very good, but I'd like to be around him. So I'd go out on the golf course and push his cart around. And we're playing at Cornell in upstate New York. And that's very typically there in the summer. Nasty thunderstorms. Everybody had to rush to the clubhouse, which we did. And I'm walking around as a kid looking at all these pictures on the wall, very old golf photos. And I had accidentally wandered into the head pro's office, a fellow by the name of George Hall, who at the time had to be 70 years old. So he's long since passed. But he said, "Son, can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize." I said, "I was just looking at all these pictures. I found them interesting." He said, "Well, are you playing today?" I said, "No, I don't play. I just like to be with my dad. I go push his cart." And out of the blue, he says, "Well, would you like to learn how to play?" And I said, "Sure." And so he said, "Do you work?" I said, "Yeah, I do." He said, "I write paper out, I do this and that." And he said, "Well, how much you make?" We agreed to. He said, "Well, you give me $5 a week, come out here every day after school and after your chores, and I'll teach you how to play golf." Now, this George Hall, I don't know how much you're into golf, but he played with the Saracens and the Hagans and the real old time big time professionals, and he was a much better teacher than he was a player, but that was his era. And anyhow, for 30 straight days, I went out. He'd spend 15 minutes with me, then let me hit as many balls as I wanted, then come out at the end for 5 minutes and take another tip. And the next thing you know, he taught me the rules, the etiquette, the everything. Would not let me go out on the golf course for that month. When he finally let me go out on the golf course, I played the Cornell University course. I played from the men's tees, the white tees. I played the ball without moving it, down like you're supposed to. Every putt was putted out, no gimmies, because that's how he taught me how to play golf.
Yeah, yeah.
And I shot a 97 the first time I ever was on a golf course, and I
Wow.
fell in love with it.
Yeah,
Now,
but
there's a fellow that I consider a mentor,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I only knew him for that 1 year. But he had such an impact on my life because golf has been a major part of it. I had golf scholarships through college. Golf professionally has certainly treated me very well with the contacts and relationships you make. And there was this, I don't know what he saw in me, but I know I
I was going to ask
trusted
the
him.
question, Ed. Yeah, I was going to ask the question. What do you think he saw in you that day as a young lad, coming in and,
I have
browsing
nothing
around?
other than, he lives by a philosophy of pay it forward. I mean, you think about the fellow who was a professional back playing in the giants of the game, early game. We're talking
Yeah,
the 30s and the 40s,
yeah, yeah,
1930s and 40s.
yeah, yeah.
And, now he's at a university golf course. So he's around young people all the time. And how it came to be, a lot of circumstance, obviously. Without that thunderstorm, it would have never happened. Without me meeting George Hall, it would have never happened. But I still play to this day. I'm an avid golfer, but I don't have the skill set that I used to. Age has a way of catching up with you on those fronts. But he's an individual that, I tell his story as one of the best blessings in my life as a tribute to George Hall. It's not about Ed Ledford. And that really has had an impact on me that's carried over professionally. Again, I recognize people that were going out of their way to help me, and I pay it forward any which way I can. And I've been blessed. There's quite a few people that have worked under me, what you want to call it, my tutelage, my coaching, that have gone on to lead very successful careers. A couple have also become presidents of insurance companies. Several have built their own businesses into multi-million-dollar organizations. And any way that I can help like that, I like to. And I don't go in with, what's in it for me kind of thing. It's just a matter of if you can have an impact, sooner or later, those seeds get planted and oak trees grow. And that's been a huge part of everything the way I look at life anyhow. And it also, leads to an appreciation of things that happen for you and by you. I recognize a lot of it is by chance, but I have to tell you nowadays, I look for quote unquote chance
Yeah.
out there, different opportunities and what can you make of it. And I guess I've always been a fairly creative thinker, but I'm certainly not the highest levels of education. I have a bachelor's degree, and I certainly keep up with my professional education. I still do 100 hours of CE every year at least, and have for 40 plus years in this
Wow.
industry. But that's more a matter just to stay current and stay relevant. But I like to be on the front edge. When I was back at MetLife running around, I had to run around the country and install some programs early on. It was a matter of what kind of technology's out there that's going to help. And this was early on. We're talking about when a scientific calculator was considered technology, right? But I bought a bag phone because I wanted to be able to see what this was all about. I never gave anybody else the number other than my secretary and my wife, because at that time it was $2.99 a minute plus $5 a connection in every area code that you were in. So it was a very expensive thing. But whether it evolved into cell phones, into computers, I'm not a geek, but I've tried to make sure I stay up on that stuff. And I've had some people that have helped me understand capabilities. So I'm not one that could go out and program something. I have a hard enough time using if I use Zoom frequently enough, which I do now, that I'm reasonably proficient at it. But God forbid some hiccup comes in my computer, I'm lost. But I know where to go. So I point that out more for I enjoy learning. and I enjoy trying to apply whatever these new capabilities are into our business. And that's become something that I can coach other professionals that I'm trying to work with and help their businesses grow as a key value proposition. And of course, now with AI coming on the scene,
Mhm.
it's opened up all kinds of new worlds. And I would say I'm on the low 10% of the way up the ladder as far as people that know AI, but I'm also at the 99th percent compared to the general public, because
Yeah.
most people, just know it as a scary word,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's
It's
about it.
intimidating. It's intimidating, Ed. There's a lot of clickbait titles out there and headlines. AI is
Yep.
coming for your job. AI is going to destroy this. It's going to do that. It's one of the things I do. I work with AI, and
Mhm.
it's a very powerful tool. And I think people, the misconception from all of the people I speak to, especially in the insurance space, people, they don't want to take the personal touch out of what they're
Right.
doing. But actually, if you use AI in the right way, it removes all the operational drag, as I call it, removes that so you can have more human to human interactions, less
Yeah.
reporting, less downtime, typing up, all of that stuff just gets automated and fixed. So you can spend time doing this and talking, and speaking.
Yeah.
Even in meetings, the simplest of tools, everybody's got one now, is, a note taker. You know,
Right.
in meetings previously, you'd have your head down, you're scribbling away at notes, you're trying to keep up with conversations. Now you can just sit and be present in the meeting, and you don't have to worry. It's all going to be captured and minuted, and actions are going to be developed, and you don't have to lift a finger. That's
Right.
that's a great example. And I mean, again, right, that's such a surface level use of AI now for what it's actually capable of.
Yeah. We one of the cornerstones of our training, and I think you start with training. It develops into coaching for certain individuals. And then, as we use the word mentor, I think it's always the person that ends up being mentored is the one that gets to apply that title. I don't think
Mhm.
if you're mentoring somebody, you can, well, I'm going to mentor you. That's not a way that it works. There
Absolutely.
certainly has to be a two-way trust, but it's the person that's receiving the coaching that, would consider somebody a mentor.
Yeah.
Um, we use a program. We titled it Coffee with Closers, because it's designed to be, and for the most part, we probably do 80% of the programs are interviews with individuals that are successful, are top of the table qualifiers, are leading agency builders, et cetera. And it's a quick 35 minutes. We do it every Thursday. It's designed to be, an attraction to us. It talks about we I would say, validates our value proposition quite a bit around the training and development aspects. But very recently, all we did is we turned on the AI to listen to our broadcasts,
Yeah.
and it now produces a summary note that's a one pager that we can send out, make available to prospects that give a quick summary of what it is that we can add to your practice. It also does a detailed summary that we turn into a podcast or another type of release, and it'll also talk about developing the social media you might do around this, all with a push of a button that takes 4 seconds, that we used to
Remarkable.
have to brainstorm for an hour and a half to come up with our best feeble ideas,
Yeah.
which, I mean, we come up with some good stuff maybe
Oh,
one out
sure.
of 8 times. But, if we don't like this, we don't use it. We tell it, I don't like this part of it, do something else. And 5 seconds later, you've got the edited version back again.
Yeah.
So we're using it in that regard. We're starting to explore using it as a means of helping agents put the right prospects in their funnels, with the communication of messages and targeting of certain aspects for the type of clients that they would want to work with. And we're starting to have some success with that. It is making the lead generation a lot, it's simplified, streamlined. And with those two things, it makes it a lot less expensive. And we're also taking it down where the agent can find ways to do that themselves with the same amount of time that I just described putting into it. So if we help build that structure, which we do, an agent can plug into the structure and manage it themselves to tailor it to what they like to do. And instead of spending $5,000 a week sending out snail mail, hoping to
Yeah.
get 15 cards back,
Yeah.
which is how this business was done for, I mean, God knows, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Um, and really, until we still have some agents that's what they choose to do, but they're not willing to take that step. Those are the types of, when I say we build our business around training, not recruiting, we're always recruiting. I mean, if you're not recruiting in this business, you'll die. But the way we're recruiting is via the training. So we put the value proposition out there. Does everybody that comes to our programs want to join us? No, well, we're not made for everybody, and we're not looking for everybody. But the ones that do find this of value, that's where they can come in and get engaged. They can get engaged either with myself, one of my two partners, which are also very good at coaching. Our marketing director is extremely good. We've got staff that does this in the Spanish-speaking community that can be coaching there, which we do. We do focus a lot of our marketing efforts around different ethnicities. Um, Really, many times we say it's the principals of this group are frequently the only big gringos in the room, because we are. Our general agency force that's attracted to us is much younger than what's available, what's say predominant in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And if you looked at our top 50 producers, there's probably only 4 over the age of 50,
Wow.
and more than half of them are women. So we're a
Interesting.
little different business model than most of the FMOs that are out there in the marketplace, and it seems to be working for us.
So you say over half of them are women. What ratio then of the overall agents are female? Is that proportionate? Is it,
That's
are your total agents 50-50, men and women, or is it weighted towards men? Because it's typically
well,
quite a
it's
male dominated
it's
environment generally.
it, it's a male dominated environment. I mean, the whole industry is male
Yeah.
dominated. So if I
Yeah.
just look at the contracts, I mean, we have 6,000 agents that have a contract with us. Does that mean we have 6,000 that are really producing at a level of importance?
Yeah.
Well, every app's important, but no, not really. So we'll look at probably out of that group, there's about 300 that we try and focus our energies on and
Mm-hmm.
provide the resources. And we're always looking for numbers 301, 302, and 303.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because somebody will rise out of the rest of that group and kind of get into our more intense, more hands-on environment. And out of that group, yeah, we're about 50% women.
Wow.
And that is very unusual in our industry.
Yeah.
It's moving. I mean, women are moving. There's more women in the business now than there were 10 years ago and 20 years ago for sure, but it's still very male dominated. Um, but again, our kind of the way I call it, our secret sauce is we're not trying to get into the mainstream. We're not trying to get into the old school. Frankly, we don't generally, we're capable of working in the high net worth markets, but we really don't spend any time there because it's awfully competitive. There's 110 other uh, IMOs, FMOs out there that are trying to push that. That is their hot button. We've got experience. Both my partner and I have worked in that market over our careers, but we're more about let's find a community, which frequently that's where it ends up centering around one ethnicity or another. So, we have probably 25 different Spanish speaking agencies. And when I say Spanish speaking, they're all very different. So,
Yeah.
Cuban agencies are very different than Puerto Rican agents, are very
Of course.
different than Mexican agents, are very different than Nicaraguan agents. And we have all of those that we have active relationships with, and we recognize that. Same thing in the various Asian marketplaces. We have Filipino agencies. We have a couple of different Chinese agencies, Korean agencies. Um, and you have to recognize that personal part of it. So what we're looking for is really a younger, more energetic, the keyword coachable individual who wants to grow a business for themselves. And what we offer them is our experience, which is really fairly extensive. We offer them enough back office services so that they don't have to go out and hire tons of staff. Most of our productive agents and agencies they've got between 1 and 7 employees. That's it. And they're usually either salespeople or lead confirmers, and obviously an administrative person or two. But all the underwriting, all of the systems, the client management systems that you need. You can tap into our resources for all of that. All your social media that you want to create, you can tap into our systems for that. All that lead generation, where to go get the names, how to filter them, you can tap into our systems. So we're looking to help someone build their own business. And too many agents out there in the U.S. marketplace, they fall for the, be your own boss, be your own business, and yet they go to work for a company where their renewals are not vested. They belong to the company. So as soon as they leave the company takes their renewals. They don't own their client relationships. The company or the agency owns the client relationship. So they really don't have their own business.
They haven't got the benefits
And
of being independent, but they're called independents. Yeah.
they call themselves independent, but they're not as independent as they think that they are.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of new people come into the business. And, there's career agency systems that are like that are still out there running around. And all of those career agency systems, the insurance company owns that client. Um, there's a lot of multi-level marketing type approaches out there. Again, the same thing. When you come into that group, you don't own your client. You don't own your renewals. You get paid by that company what they're going to give you. In our world, we really are going to set up a system where an individual is going to own the business. We do not pay anybody through our company. Everybody's paid directly by the various insurance companies that they'll plug into their marketing
Okay.
programs, and it's theirs. And
Yeah.
frankly, if they want to walk away and leave us, we don't stop them unless they owe us money. Anybody can leave whenever they want. We'll give them a release tomorrow. For whatever reason, and I know the reasons, in 18 years, it's happened very, very rarely. And most that have left that are agents have really come back. The only one that was significant that we lost, and we lost forever, was an individual who came to us, probably 14 years ago, I'm going to say now. And he was an individual producer, a good producer. And he and his brother they were working in the final expense markets. And he had a very interesting and solid system that he used, really a process that he used to sell insurance. And they were selling about 150,000 of target a year. And he came in, he wanted some help building an agency. Well, he worked with us for 9 years. He went from his little group there. When he left, he probably had about 45 or 50 agents. They were doing $9 million of premium. And he ended up selling his agency. There's a lot of acquisition going on in our business now for a mid 8-figure number. Now,
Nice.
I don't blame him. We don't
God, no.
we don't get any gain from that anymore, but
Yeah.
it was the right thing. It was the right thing for him to do. But that's a pretty good success story.
This is
And
incredible.
he really didn't leave us. Somebody came to him with the offer he couldn't, the Godfather offer, right?
The Godfather offer, absolutely, absolutely. And a couple of things you keep mentioning, it kind of revolves around community. How important is community? You mentioned at MetLife, you had this group of successful people that all went on and did these even more incredible things, become C-suite leaders of businesses, and you see that, there's the Steve Jobs effect, where I was talking to a gentleman who's going to join the podcast shortly, who worked directly for Steve Jobs, and that. There's something about working with someone. Steve Jobs is a unicorn, right? But there's something about being in the presence of somebody akin to Steve Jobs. It doesn't have to be a world famous person like that, but someone that's magnetic, creative, enthusiastic, energetic, right, and motivated. That once you get a group of people like that together, it seems to manifest into something greater, right?
Yeah, and name is escaping me right now. I will think of it shortly, but his counsel to me was, when somebody's looking to grow or become something bigger and better, what you'll be generally is the average of the 5 closest people you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with, people that are moaning and crying and doing mediocre production, you're going to end up doing mediocre production. If you surround yourself with people that are truly successful, that are growing, that are doing things and making a difference within their community, within their client base, uh, then you're going to evolve into, quote unquote, the average of those 5 people. And if you think about your own life, I know that's proven very true to me, for Ed Ledford. And I see it very, very frequently. So it's not that it's not available. And that's kind of one of we don't promote that, quote unquote, be the average, be the average of your top 5, but we are presenting 3 of your top 5 right as the leadership of this organization, that if you want to really join us and buy into what we're doing, be coachable, put the energy in, have the right, moral center and everything else. Uh, we've got success story after success story. I mean, we've taken that one agency sold. That's fine, and it was a good thing for him, and for his agents, and but he's also now only 50 years old, maybe, and he's got to figure out what he's going to do with the rest of his life, because he's got to figure out something else. But we have other individuals that we've done the same things with, that have grown from making $150,000-$200,000 a year to making multi-millions and building real net worth, and agencies that make a difference within communities. So we're really proud of. That's kind of my business card.
Should be. It's remarkable. Ed. It's remarkable. All of those success stories, and it gets me wondering. The community, and that's ultimately what you have there, right? When people can sit down and be around you, and have that rub off on them, not only the knowledge that you're imparting, not only the compliance, the regulations, and everything else, and the social media support, and anything else you can offer, but there's something else, and it's not tangible. You can't put your finger on it, but whatever it is that you've got that's made you a great success, that it will rub off on other people. Sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to suggest, Lloyd, is that it's not Ed Ledford. It's the whole FFP family of people. It's our staff. We have an incredibly good staff. They're all long service. We don't lose people inside or out. There's a lot of talent within our organization. One of my partners is a perennial top of the table producer, in addition to running his agency and participating in running FFP. My other partner has done everything from personal sales to CEO of an insurance company and in between. And we've been working together for 18 years now, with what we like to do. So this whole thing it's an organization, and agents. It is a very, very lonely world out there as an agent. I mean, you're on the phone, you're trying to get a new client, but you're not coming in to, have coffee around the water cooler every night. And in one sense, I think what we try and offer at FFP is that sense of family. And if you looked at all these coffee with closers, which is our our initial Thursday training programs, it's independent business people, agents out there that are willing to share what they're doing successfully in their practice with this virtual audience, okay, which is many of the people they know that are at every one of them. And then usually every coffee with closers, there's half a dozen or dozen people we don't know that have heard about us somehow and, are in to take a look. And you just don't find that level of openness and sharing and sense of family by accident. I mean, it's because we'll go in and we don't there's no model. It's not you go do this to be successful. When I work with somebody, we go into their agency and look at what they're doing, what their current client base. So it might be a P&C agency that doesn't even do life insurance now, or does very little, almost by accident, if somebody asks them for it. And we can sit there and act as a coach / consultant / part of their board of directors. Some of them call up Ira and I their board of directors. That'll go in and we can show them new streams of revenue that they can build. We can not show them just what they can build, but the steps required on how to do it. We have several, in fact, quite a few now, and it's growing, successful P&C agencies that have made this transition into building their life and annuity and retirement book of business. Same thing with health-only agencies. God knows, in both of those worlds, the reason we spent some time working at it the commission structure for the automobile and homeowners insurance has been shrunk over the last 15 years, and it continues to shrink. Health insurance, same thing. I mean, ACA agents are getting paid just about nothing now for something they used to be able to make a really good living. Well, what I recognize is that they have built a base of clients, and those clients have other needs other than what they were introduced for to that particular group. And if you approach them in the right way, and if you market yourself in the right way, and if you have that support infrastructure, what usually stops people from making that additional revenue stream is they're insecure about their knowledge about the product. Well, we fill that void, not just with, here, throw you out the product information, but we're there to help them design the cases. We're there to help them figure out which policy for which individual. And it's a lot of fun. And that's why, I mean, I've been in this business a long time. And the reason that people say, well, when are you going to retire? I could have retired quite some time ago, but why? I have as much fun now as I've ever had. And I really like coaching. And I think, at the end of the day, my belief about my legacy is I'm going to have had an impact on tens of thousands of families, not the agents necessarily, but the clients of the agents. But I'm going to be a little part of that family program. And that's not just the existing family today, that's generations. When that agent delivers $1 million life insurance check for somebody that was deceased and no 5 kids, all of a sudden have new opportunities to do things that they might not have otherwise not been able to do. I'm not taking credit for that. Don't get me wrong.
No, I know.
But I'm a little bit of a part of the clog that makes it happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that gives me a lot of satisfaction.
I'm sure, and rightly so as well, because you're right. The butterfly effect of that goes on, and those lives that will be changed by being sold. A policy that doesn't just cover you, but it protects you. That's the difference. And you're imparting this knowledge on the agents who are out there selling the right policies to the right people, and that's the purpose of it, right? It's going to have a huge impact.
Sure.
And what do you perceive as what's the difference between coaching and mentoring? And because you can't mentor 300 people, right? It's impossible. So what's the difference between coaching and mentoring, first of all? And how do you find yourself in a position where you're mentoring an individual? What is it that you see in them, or is it something that's intangible again?
Well, I think, it all starts as coaching. Okay. And let's think of it in terms of the, both the level of coaching, time and energy and reward, as well as the trust between, coach and player, if you would. And think of it as a sports analogy. You've seen hundreds of situations where, there's a successful coach out there, but the players, once they get done with that system, they're happy to be gone. I can think of at least what I read quite a bit of. There's recently released in the Southeast Conference, was not very well received by his players. And once he was released, his players, were complaining left and right about, how he acted in the community, how he treated them. So there wasn't a lot of mentoring going on there. Mentoring's a two-way street, and it has to be suitably rewarded to each. Okay. It has to be a win-win. So I think it's just the right mix. And you're right. When you get literally to that, point where I can say I'm mentoring this person, and it doesn't always last forever, by the way. You mentor somebody for 3-5 years of their career, you'll always be one of their mentors, but you're not active today.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's what a lot of it has been for me on a receiving end, as well as me in helping other people and being considered a mentor. And there have been quite a few people that have called me one of their mentors. They'll stand in front of a group, and sometimes it's a little embarrassing, but I accept it as a compliment. That it's advertised is the embarrassing part, right? It's very rewarding and fulfilling personally. So I don't know that you can't expect it. I don't think there's a roadmap that says how to become a mentor, but there is a roadmap how to be an effective coach. And I think every once in a while you get that special relationship between the coach and the player, the coach and the agent, however you want to look at it. That yeah, I mean, they go out, they celebrate together. They know each other's families. They put their arms around each other, even if they're not participating in each other's success anymore. They still put their arms around each other and carry that
Yeah.
forward. So
It's interesting. It's fascinating to me, more than interesting. It's fascinating to me, Ed, because I've had then there's a gentleman now I consider a mentor of mine, and he's probably 10 years older than me, maybe a little bit more than 10 years older than me. Incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly experienced, and he's a business consultant. His name's Andrew Thomas. I'll give him a shout out. AJT Consultancy.
okay,
So he goes into businesses and fixes, a lot of manufacturing businesses. And I was working in an organization that he came into, and we clicked straight away. We got on. He could see where I was coming from. He could see the drive I had. He could see the changes that I was trying to make, and the battles that I was, that I was up against in there. And he came in speaking the same language, and we really hit it off. And I eventually left that organization, and he contacted me personally and said, look, no, make sure we stay in touch. And I did. I just reached out to him and just in a personal, and over time, I've come to realize he is that mentor figure. I'm in a predicament recently about a contract that I've been offered, and our works package, and he's the first person I call. The guy does incredibly well for himself. He's on a day rate. His time is very valuable, and I find myself calling him up, and it was only after the call I thought, he just give me half an hour of his time. He just give me half an hour of his time and give me these pearls of wisdom. He offered to come to Germany with me to this business. He's like, cover my expenses, I'll come with you. That's so generous. He wasn't looking for a salary. He was just offering.
right.
He was going to offer 2 days of his time, which is he doesn't come cheap, right?
No, I would imagine, and that's
it was a big moment for me. Yeah,
yeah,
it was a really big moment.
It's got to make you feel great too.
Yeah, man. There's nothing in it for him. There's no financial gain. There's no reward. There's no long-term plan or long-term goal. And I helped him out when he was going through some coaching qualifications. I offered him a bit of time there, so he had somebody to kind of work with. He's an executive coach now, and I think that earned his loyalty. I don't know if it's right to say that, his trust, his loyalty, the relationship, whatever it was. He's very gracious in offering me this support and help, and it means a lot. It really does.
Well, I would suggest to you, Lloyd, that there's a lot of ways to get paid other than cash, particularly when you've got enough cash coming in from other places, which I would assume he does. But it's almost more rewarding to see your success. And again, not be able to advertise to the world, but just know in his heart, he's there for you to help you. And, that is the mentor. I mean, that's what when I say the people that, I consider my mentors, that's what they did. And I like to think that's, I'm paying it forward with people that, all those attributes you talked about yourself, they recognize that you're a go-getter, that you're a smart human being, that you're willing to work. Those things are all required. You're not going to find somebody putting time into useless, but your success, is part of what he thinks. We're only on this earth for so long, Lloyd.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you don't take your money with you. You don't take your toys with you, but your memories and your legacy, that's a lot bigger part of it. So to hear you talking about him is, I would hope he somehow gets to hear this podcast and know that, that you care and appreciate it that much. I assure you he will find that rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully he knows. Maybe I should be more direct with my gratitude, because I do appreciate it. And I always tell him I appreciate it very, very clearly, but I'm not convinced he knows how much it means to me and how much I appreciate it.
That's one of those things. I'll give you the last little thought here.
No, go ahead.
We're probably running down.
No, we're
time,
good. We're good for time, Ed. You carry on.
Okay.
Unless you need to be somewhere, of course.
No, I'm good for a bit more. But Somebody told me once that you ought to just spend 3 minutes every pick a day of the week, whatever's your loose time, Thursdays, Fridays, and just write a 3 sentence note to somebody you haven't talked to in 5 years. Just let them know that you're still there and you thought about it. And that rung very loud, clearly with me. I did it for a while. I won't tell you that I continue to do it as religiously as I'd like to, but you having brought that up, I think I'm going to start up again. It's getting close to the holiday season, and I certainly have a lot of people that I can say I'm grateful just to have made that connection in this life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's a really nice idea, and I think I don't want to be stereotypical. I don't want to be kind of divisive here, but women are very good at that, right? They're very good at staying in touch. They're very good at being. My wife has pockets of friends. She speaks to frequently. She speaks to them all the time. I'm like this, Ed. I've got my
Right?
blinkers on. I got my head down. I'm working, and I love work. I enjoy work. I'm not complaining. I'm one of those sad people that just thoroughly enjoys working. In an evening, I work American hours because most of my clients are in America. So I'll get up in the morning. I'll do the family thing. I'll go and work all day from late morning onwards. I'll come home. I'll do bedtime, and then I'm in the evening. I'm doing calls. I'm doing podcasts. It's either that or I'm watching Desperate Housewives on TV anyway. So
Well, that sounds like time with your wife.
yeah, we get plenty of that. We get plenty of that. She might
That's good.
appreciate it a little bit more. But Ed, this is a really interesting conversation for me. It's been a really fun conversation as well, and really insightful. I think for a lot of people. I think when it comes to, I'm quite focused on the mentorship, and I keep kind of it's really had an impact on me the way you talk about it, and how important that the mentor can play in the life of anyone, right? Of that individual. And not only that, the people that you've kind of hit it off with and kind of evolved into this is the right word, evolved into this kind of mentor and relationship. That person will want to give back, not necessarily to you, but they will want to impart that onto somebody else. So the more people you've helped directly, the more people they are then likely to help, and the people they help, and that will proliferate, right? I think
Yeah.
it's a really powerful thing. I think it's a
I
really
would agree with
powerful
you.
thing.
I can tell you with absolute certainty, I would not be where I am in my life in lots of parts of it, not just my business, without having had those relationships and little angels on earth that took an interest in me at the right time. All
Yeah,
the way back to George Hall and my golf story from as a kid, coaches that I had through my playing career in sports, and then obviously through my business life, which is touched a lot of companies, been through a lot of change. There's been up times, down times, but you know, there's a select group of people that I call upon, when I'm really either up, down, or really trying to sort through something. And it's a small field that we're talking about. It's not hundreds of people. I don't go out looking for a vote. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
that trust, the trust and confidence, and not just in their knowledge, but in their interest in me. I mean, I know when I go talk to one of those mentors, they've got my best interests at heart in whatever they're going to share with me.
that's great. Great, Ed. I got one more question for you. If you had to, I mean, this might be challenging, right? But if what's the one lesson you'd want every listener to take from your 40-year journey in this remarkable career that you've had?
Well, it's a tough one. There's
It is,
there's an
yeah,
awful lot of, but I would I would say that you really need to examine what you do and how you do it, and you need to develop. And this isn't a business response to it. Um, your process, and everybody's process is going to be different. But if you have a process, one of my partners likes to say, it's like if you're a process driven agent, that's the PRO, that's a professional agent, the PRO. You're a real pro when you have a process that you can follow, and not just follow, that's not a linear thing that you do it once and you just do it over, but a process is always evolving. So if you look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, with the idea of continually improving that process. So it's not going to start right. That's the whole point of this whole thing. I don't want people to say, well, I'm not going to do anything until I get my process down. No, just examine what you're doing, take it there, and then look to continually improve. One little step at a time. It doesn't have to be big steps. And before you know it, you look back in the rearview mirror. We always say, my God, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. Where did the time go? Well, that's why the time goes, is it's little bits and pieces. But 10 years is not a long time either. It's
Yeah,
imagine yourself 10 years from now with an ability to have those incremental steps make a big difference in your life and the lives of many other people. So that's the one thought I'd kind of throw at you.
that's great. That's
Lloyd, it's
great.
been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm
Really
glad you
has.
reached out, and this is somehow how the world works. We did not know each other
No.
2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll be following up with you too, just to make sure, see how you're doing with your programs and making it
Appreciate
work. I
that.
appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Ed. You're an absolute gentleman, and I've really enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you very much, Ed Ledford.
You know,
Have a great day.
God
Take
bless.
care.
Thank you.